You ever wake up one morning feeling way too confident for who you actually are? Because that was me. I woke up thinking, today, I'm gonna be responsible. And right there, that was the first mistake. You should never trust a day that starts with confidence. That's basically like nature telling you, buddy, we're about to teach you something. So I grab my coffee, look around like I'm a functioning adult, pick up my keys, or what I thought were my keys, and I head out the door like I'm starring in my own motivational montage. The whole time, I'm thinking, look at me, I'm crushing it. But then I get to the door later, I stick the key in, the door just judges me, like it knew the whole time. The key doesn't fit, but I'm still trying, because at that point, you can't admit you messed up. So I'm standing there jiggling the key like the door owes me rent or something. And this door, this wooden, lifeless object has the nerve to basically say, "You sure about that, Chief?" And that's when it hits me, brought the wrong keys. Not even close, not like one wrong key. I brought a whole different life's worth of keys. Like keys to stuff I didn't even know still existed. And I'm standing there pretending everything is normal, because heaven forbid the neighbor walks by while I'm losing a fight to a doorknob. Then, for reasons nobody will ever understand, and they're smart, instead of accepting responsibility, I call my wife, the person who already knows I'm the weakest link in this marriage. You can hear the disappointment loading on her end of the call, like a software update. She doesn't even ask what happened. She goes straight to, "What did you do?" And I'm like, why would you assume I did something? Which is hilarious, because obviously I did something. So while I'm trying to act confident, my neighbor walks by, and suddenly I'm standing there pretending I'm inspecting the door. Like I'm the official door inspector of the neighborhood. I even nodded at it like, "Yeah, looks sturdy." Meanwhile, I'm sweating like a criminal in a detective show. My wife pulls up, walks past me, doesn't say a word, just puts her key in, opens the door instantly like she has magical powers. She turns around and gives me that married people smile. The one that says, "You are the reason instructions exist." And I'm standing there like, well, technically it was a key issue. Just wrong universe. And that's the thing. It was one tiny mistake, one microscopic, innocent, nothing mistake. Somehow it hijacked my entire day, my confidence, and my dignity. And honestly, that's when I realized this is just who I am. Maybe I'm not built for simple tasks. Maybe God looked at me and said, he's gonna be funny, but he's gonna struggle. And that's how one little mistake turned my normal day into a full Nate Bargatze episode slow, confusing, slightly embarrassing, and somehow still my fault. I woke up that morning with a level of confidence I have never earned in my entire life. It wasn't even regular confidence. It was that quiet, dangerous, today I'm finally getting my life together type confidence that sneaks up on you when you're not paying attention. I sat up in bed like I was starring in a motivational commercial. Sunlight hit my face like the universe was applauding me for absolutely nothing. And for a moment, I believed it. Genuinely believed I was starting the day as a fully functioning adult. That's the kind of delusion that destroys good people. Got out of bed with this ridiculous sense of purpose, walking around the house like I owned it, though half the time I'm scared of the electric bill. I started doing responsible things for no reason, straightening pillows, pushing chairs in, even wiping the counter like I was preparing for guests I don't have. Every move I made had that slow, dramatic, look at me being responsible energy. It was dangerous. Confidence like that shouldn't be given out freely. There should be paperwork. As I sipped my coffee, I actually nodded to myself in approval. That's how far I'd gone. Became my own emotional support person. I stood there thinking, this is it, this is the day, everything changes. That should have been my first warning sign. Anytime I start narrating my own life, like a documentary, something terrible is about to happen. But I didn't listen. Kept the confidence going. I even walked to the door with that exaggerated movie-style determination. You know that walk people do right before they completely fail at something. That was me. I grabbed my keys off the table with this little flourish like I was a magician about to perform. I didn't check them, didn't verify anything. I just grabbed them because a confident person doesn't check. They assume the universe is cooperating. That is exactly how confident people get humbled. There was this small voice in my head that said, you should double check those keys. But I ignored it because overconfidence blinds you to basic logic. I stepped out the door like I was leaving for an award ceremony. It's funny how life lets you enjoy the moment right before it ruins everything. I breathed in the fresh morning air, thinking, I am finally becoming the adult I always said I would be. And right there, hidden in that little moment, was the disaster loading in the background like a slow buffering video. Because the truth is, not the guy who wakes up responsible. I am not the guy who has it all together. The guy whose day falls apart over tiny things like keys, doors, neighbors, and choices I made 5 minutes earlier. But in that moment, I didn't know any of that. I was just a man standing confidently in the calm before the storm, completely unaware that the universe was about to remind me exactly who I really am. I picked up those keys with the confidence of a man who genuinely believes he knows what he's doing, even though history has shown repeatedly that I do not. There was no hesitation, no double checking, no moment of thoughtful pause. Grabbed them like I was starring in an instructional video titled, How Responsible Adults Start Their Day. And the funny thing is, didn't even glance at the keychain. I just scooped it up the way a magician picks up props on stage. I had rehearsed it my whole life. That right there tells you everything about my decision, making skills fast, flashy, completely wrong. But in that moment, I couldn't tell. The confidence had me blinded. I held the keys like a trophy, jingling them in my hand as if the sound alone confirmed I was on top of my life. What's amazing is how keys, small, innocent pieces of metal, can turn into the villains of your day. But I didn't know I had picked the wrong set. I walked around the house with them swinging in my hand like I was in a commercial for adulthood. I even tossed them once, caught them in the air, and thought, wow, look at me. That's how far gone I was. The keys could have been a can opener. I would have still walked out the door like I had everything under control. I didn't question it for a second, because people like me don't question things when everything appears to be going smoothly. In fact, smooth moments are exactly when the mistakes hide the best. The universe never ruins your life loudly. It ruins it quietly, starting with one confident decision you didn't deserve to make. As I locked the door behind me, using the one part of the key that didn't require the correct set, I still felt unstoppable. Took a deep breath, like I had just completed a marathon, even though all I did was turn a doorknob. But small victories feel big when you're not used to them. And while I was busy congratulating myself, the keys dangled from my hand like they were laughing at me. They knew what was coming. I didn't. I strutted to the car with this unearned swagger, the kind that really only exists before a disaster. They're smart. I didn't even notice the keychain looked different. I didn't notice the extra keys attached. Didn't notice the obvious signs that this wasn't my usual set. The confidence had overridden all my senses. It's like being hypnotized by your own optimism. You don't see the danger until it punches you in the face. The best part is how proud I felt, completely unaware I had chosen the wrong keys to guide my life that day. It wasn't just a small mistake. It was the kind of mistake that waits quietly, smiling, knowing it's going to reveal itself at the worst possible moment. But for now, I walked out into the world holding the wrong keys like a man holding the perfect solution. And the universe, somewhere, probably whispered, "This is going to be good." When I finally walked up to the door later that day, I had no idea that this was the moment my entire sense of dignity was about to collapse. Approached it with the confidence of someone who truly believes the world is on his side. And the door, just a regular, was standing there quietly, waiting to expose me. I put the key in with this dramatic, hero-level determination, the kind you only see in movies when someone's about to deactivate a bomb. The second the key refused to go in, the entire tone of my day changed. It was like the door looked at me and said, so we're doing this today. That's the thing about doors. They don't care how confident you are, care about your morning routine, your positivity, or the fact that you finally felt responsible for once. Doors are brutally honest. If you have the wrong key, they will embarrass you publicly, aggressively, and with zero hesitation. Try it again, because the first attempt is never enough to crush your spirit. You always think the problem is technique. So now I'm twisting the key, leaning into it, making faces like I'm performing surgery. Did that thing everyone does, pushing the door with my shoulder as if physical violence might make the key realize I'm serious. They're smart, but the door stayed strong, like it's enjoying the show. Every second that key didn't turn was another second of the door silently judging my entire life. And the craziest part, still believed it was the door's fault. That's how delusional confidence can make you. I'm standing there having a full argument with a doorknob, whispering things like, "Don't do this to me today," as if the door cares about my schedule. Then comes the worst stage of the whole process, the moment when you start pretending the key almost worked. You jiggle it harder, softer, then you pull it out halfway like you're negotiating a peace treaty. At one point, I literally stared at the key like it betrayed me. I even flipped it over, knowing full well keys don't work differently upside down, but logic wasn't involved anymore. This wasn't about keys. This was about pride, and pride makes you do incredibly stupid things. So I kept trying, hoping something magical would happen. They're smart, like the doors suddenly offering forgiveness or the key developing a new personality. Then I reached that inevitable stage where embarrassment creeps in. You start glancing around to make sure nobody is watching you lose a fight to an inanimate object. I stood there pretending I was just checking something on the door, like I was a door inspector or a carpenter doing measurements. I even nodded at it once. The two of us were making a serious decision together. But deep down, I knew what was coming. That creeping realization that this wasn't a door problem. It was a me problem. Nothing is more humbling than being defeated by your own house. As I stepped back, trying to process this sudden betrayal by reality, I felt that unmistakable sting of embarrassment mixed with denial. One key, simple key, had dismantled my entire illusion of responsibility. And while I was still trying to look calm on the outside, inside I was already panicking. Because if the key was wrong, then everything I believed about my day was wrong. The door, silent, still, and absolutely unforgiving, was the first to tell me the truth. I walked into the store with the confidence of a man who had already survived too much that day. At this point, I felt like the universe was running a practical joke on me, and I wasn't even sure if I was still the main character or just an extra in my own life. The doors slid open like they were sighing at me. I knew deep down that nothing good ever starts with me walking into a store alone. I was just there to grab one simple thing. But for some reason, the moment I step into a store, my brain forgets how the world works. Feels like walking into a different dimension where all basic logic collapses. And right away, I could feel that same strange energy, the kind where you know something is about to go wrong, but you don't know how yet. That suspense is the hook that pulls you deeper. Like, what tiny disaster is waiting for me now? So I start walking around, trying to look like I know what I'm doing. That's important. You never want to look confused in public. The moment you look confused, someone will ask if you need help, and then you have to lie. And I always lie, every time. No, good. I could be standing in front of a wall of items I've never seen in my life, holding my phone upside down as a flashlight, and I will still say, no, I'm fine. Because in my mind, admitting I need help is the first step toward being on some employee group chat labeled confused man in aisle 7. But the real chaos started when I walked by the self-checkout machines. Someone was already arguing with one, and I swear those machines bring out the worst in humanity. You can watch a grown adult, a person with a job, a family, responsibilities, turn into a toddler when that screen says, unexpected item in the bagging area. It's like the machine accuses you of a crime you didn't even know existed. The person arguing with it was looking at the screen like it had insulted his entire bloodline. That should have been my sign to turn around. But no, I walk right toward it. A man who never learned anything from his past mistakes. I pick my one item, the whole mission for this disastrous day, headed to self-checkout, because apparently I don't respect myself. The moment I scanned the item, the machine froze, like it saw me coming and said, not him, anybody but him. A red light started flashing, and suddenly I was the center of the store's attention. An alarm didn't go off, but somehow it felt like it did. The worker had to walk over, and the way she looked at me was the same way teachers look at a kid who just ate glue. She wasn't mad, just disappointed that I exist. While she was fixing it, I tried to stand there casually, hands in pockets, fake smile, pretending I wasn't the reason her entire afternoon derailed. That internal voice kept whispering, how did your day fall apart over nothing? How are you this bad at life? And just as she got it working again, the machine yelled at me for not removing the item quickly enough. At that point, even I wanted to fight the machine. By the end, I realized something important every time I make one small mistake. The world doesn't just react, it overreacts. It's like the universe is running on dramatic mode, and I'm the only one who didn't get the update. There's a very specific moment in every disaster-filled day where you can feel the universe pause, lean in, and whisper, let's make this even worse. And for me, that moment happened the second I stepped outside of the store. I wasn't even 5 steps out when I realized I had no idea where I parked my car. None. I walked out with the confidence of a man who absolutely knew. and immediately lost all that confidence when my feet hit the pavement. It was like someone had swapped the entire parking lot while I was inside. The hook was already there. How do you lose your car when you only came for one item? And somehow managed to do it every single time. So I began the walk of shame. Know that walk, you hold the one bag you bought like a trophy you didn't earn. You try to look casual while your eyes are scanning nonstop like a malfunctioning security camera. Every time you think you spot your car, you get that tiny spark of hope. You walk faster. You're already rehearsing the speech you'll give yourself about staying organized next time. And then you get close enough to realize it's not your car. It's just another vehicle that's the same color. I've fallen for that trap so many times that I think car manufacturers hate me personally. Then comes the part where you pretend you're not lost. You pull out your phone, not to use it, just to look at it, because it makes you look busy. You start nodding your head like you're on an important call about the weather. Meanwhile, your inner voice is screaming, "Where is the car? Did it leave without us? Is this how life ends now?" That dramatic voice always shows up. It always gets louder the longer you walk. As I kept wandering, I noticed a couple walking behind me. Clearly knew where they were going, and suddenly I felt like they were judging me. I sped up. They sped up. I slowed down. They slowed down. Now it looked like we were in some slow motion chase scene no one asked for. Even tried pressing the unlock button on my key to make my car beep, but all I got was silence. The kind of silence that makes you rethink your whole life. I kept pressing it like the responsibility was on the key, not on me for forgetting where I parked. Eventually, a car in the distance beeped, and something in me said, "That's definitely it." So I walked toward it with purpose, like a man who suddenly became a functional adult again. As I got closer, I saw it was, once again, not my car. At this point, I wasn't even embarrassed anymore. I was just impressed by how wrong I could be in such a short amount of time. I stood there, staring at the car. Even the car seemed confused why I was looking at it. Finally, after what felt like 3 laps around an airport runway, I spotted my car in a completely different section of the lot. I swear it wasn't even parked there earlier. It must have moved. Cars can move now. That's the only way to explain it, because there's no universe where I walk right past it twice. I reached it with the same exhaustion as a man who just finished a marathon he didn't train for. I opened the door, sat down, closed my eyes, and thought, how did my entire day unravel over one tiny mistake? And just when I thought the chaos was finally over, I remembered something horrible. I still had to drive home. By the time I pulled into the driveway, I was already exhausted in a way that only comes from surviving a day entirely ruined by your own mistakes. I sat in the car for a moment, staring at the house like it personally judged me. And that's when I heard the engine behind me. Wife had pulled up, and just like that, the weight of my failure got multiplied by 2. She stepped out slowly, that deliberate, calm pace that only someone who knows exactly what's going on can pull off. There's a hook in this moment. The way she walks toward the door with zero rush, zero panic, completely composed, while I am still gripping the wrong keys in my hand like there's some kind of lifeline. Swear she could sense the disaster aura clinging to me from 20 feet away. As she approached, I tried to act casual, like nothing had happened. I even nodded at her once, which only made me feel more awkward, because who nods in a tense situation like that? And then she saw the keys. That look she gave me, half disbelief, half amusement, half I cannot believe you exist in this universe, was like a judgment passed by the Supreme Court of marriage. It wasn't angry, it wasn't yelling, it wasn't even dramatic. It was just that look. And suddenly, all the confidence I'd carried through the morning evaporated. That's the hook. No words needed to humiliate you completely. She didn't say anything. She just reached for the correct key on her keychain, inserted it into the lock, opened the door effortlessly, just like that. 2 seconds, maximum competence. Meanwhile, I was still holding the wrong keys, trying to figure out if maybe, just maybe, I could convince the universe they were somehow magical. Spoiler, they weren't. And the way she smiled, just a little, that subtle married person smile that says, I love you. I have no idea how you manage to get dressed every day, was simultaneously comforting and soul-crushing. I tried to make a joke, of course, because that's my only defense mechanism. I said something like, well, technically, I was testing the lock. She didn't laugh, which was fair. She gave me that slight head tilt, like she was trying to figure out if I was serious. I realized that my entire day, my confidence, my supposed competence, my dignity, was now just a punchline. That's exactly what makes these moments stick. The universe doesn't punish you loudly. It punishes you with silence, with calm observation, with a subtle human reaction that makes you question everything. As she walked inside, leaving me on the porch with my wrong keys still dangling from my hand, I couldn't help but replay the day in my mind. One tiny mistake, one misgrabbed set of keys had spiraled into a full day saga and somehow became funny in a way only real life can be. I stood there thinking, this is why Nate Bargatze stories exist. Because there's nothing more comedic than watching yourself utterly fail at something so mundane while everyone around you silently witnesses the spectacle. And in that moment, I realized that life's disasters aren't dramatic. They're slow, awkward, and perfectly timed to make you look ridiculous without anyone saying a word, which is exactly the kind of story worth telling. That's how one tiny, completely harmless mistake, grabbing the wrong keys, managed to hijack my entire day. Wasn't life-threatening, it wasn't dramatic, it was just me being me, overconfident, oblivious, somehow convinced that everything was under control. But somehow, tiny slip upturned into a full-blown saga of awkward encounters, door struggles, and silent judgment from people who love me. Honestly, that's the beauty of it. Sometimes the smallest mistakes make the funniest stories. The moments you think are disasters are the ones you end up laughing about the most. In my world, one tiny misstep isn't just a mistake, it's an entire Nate Bargatze episode waiting to be told.